Kelsea Ballerini has finally released her album Subject to Change, and it is time to talk about it. Over the last several years, as far as female pop country goes, other than Kacey Musgraves, Kelsea Ballerini has been the female pop country artist I've seen the most potential in, and have been willing to invest the most into. And I mean, at this point, it may be a changing of the guard for my queen of pop country. Sure, while Kacey Musgraves definitely has the stronger discography overall, at this present moment, I think Kelsea Ballerini is really separating herself as the queen of mainstream pop country. But this isn't a comparison video, it's time to cut out everything else and talk about this brand new Kelsea Ballerini album. My fascination with Kelsea all began back in 2020 with the release of her somewhat self-titled album, Kelsea. That record really made me take a second look at her, because although the record is far from perfect, it brought forth a level of honesty and personality that I was just not expecting from someone in the position of Kelsea Ballerini, who just a few years ago was topping charts with blasting pop country smashes like Miss Me More, and venturing into other realms through collaborations with people like the Chainsmokers. Songs like Club, Homecoming Queen, and LA were all very sincere and blunt. And I also think they sort of went against the grain in that way. In the late 2010s, as far as female pop country went, it felt like the main sellers were these bold, I don't need you, I'm a strong, independent woman anthems with expensive productions sort of flaunting their position in the industry. And while those aren't bad things, I'm not saying it's bad to be an independent woman. I mean, look at what Carly Pearce did on her last album, and it was like one of my top 3 albums of the year. But to hear an artist in the position of Kelsea suddenly start sharing this lesser heard perspective, opening up a more delicate side to her, it was really interesting to me. And when she was having a good time, it was delivered in a much more youthful, immature way, and I mean that as a compliment. It was just overflowing with personality and an attitude specific to Kelsea. For me, the personality of that album wound up being way more memorable than any of the subpar pop production choices. It's also worth noting the presentation that came along with that album. I think initially it did make me more interested to check it out. You know, the album cover was simply Kelsea laying in the grass. All the song titles were short, all in lowercase font. It just came across as really cute, almost innocent, which again was just such a refreshing image when held up to other artists like Gabby Barrett standing in an entire gold reflective suit in a white shimmering room. All this to say, despite my many criticisms of that album, it showed a level of potential I was willing to wait on. I had just had this feeling that at some point, Kelsea was going to deliver a truly impressive record that, most importantly, remained unique to her both musically and lyrically. I just didn't think it would be her very next album. But here we are with Subject to Change, and boy oh boy do I ever love this record. It's one of those albums that seems to get better with every single listen, and I think there's a few reasons for that, so let's talk about it. Now, during the lead up to this album, Kelsea came forward and said that this was going to be her most country album yet. And although I didn't mean to dismiss her comments or call her bluff before hearing any of it, it just feels like the go-to promotional pitch, especially from the pop country realm. They're always saying right, this new song, it's gonna be my most country song yet. Almost just as a means to try and draw as many eyes as possible, only for the final product to be another churned out pop country single, but this time they substituted the synthesizer for an acoustic guitar, big whoop, and they called it a day. But Kelsea has proven herself to be one of the few to truly honor that claim. This is her most country album yet, but she didn't achieve that by simply replacing synthetic drum loops with real drums. She made this her most country album yet by unapologetically going in the other direction, making some Shania Twain level bangers, led by the fiddle, the mandolins, the banjos, and all of those instruments we love. I really do believe in that third track, I Can't Help Myself. That song to me just feels like her Man, I Feel Like a Woman moment. It has that iconic vibe. No matter who you are, I don't care if you're a 250-pound linebacker tattooed from head to toe, it just turns your feminine side on to the max. I am on my bad bitch energy when I listen to that song. I feel like Regina George about to go remind everyone why I'm king of the hill. You listen to me now. We wear pink on Wednesdays. What is that? Green on a Wednesday? Should I be doing this in a feminine voice? You listen to me now. We wear pink on Wednesdays. What is that? Green on a Wednesday? Banished. You know what? I hope you lose a fingernail in your science lab today, Kate. And then you know what comes next on the track list? Come on, man! She really made a banger. Turned around and said, you want to see me do it again? Jokes aside, though, for a minute or two. This album really does hit a hot streak longer and hotter than a lot of the strongest albums this year. Right from the opener, Subject to Change, this album does not miss a beat, honestly, until the 8th track, Weather, which I don't mind. I wouldn't call Weather a bad song, maybe just outshone by its peers, but those first 7 songs, Subject to Change, The Little Things, I Can't Help Myself, If You Go Down, I'm Going Down Too, Love is a Cowboy, Muscle Memory, and I guess they call it Fallen, not just in the realm of pop country, but by any standard, that is a lethal, freakishly impressive start to an album. I say start, but it's the entire front half. Subject to Change, I think, is a very fitting opener. It really accurately sets you up for what this album is. A record dropping in the midst of a pretty big shift in Kelsey's life with her divorce from Morgan Evans, and I think it just maps out her headspace and where she's at really well. The Little Things is a fun country rock pop jam calling back to the late 2000s. I've already given my spiel on I Can't Help Myself. If You Go Down, I'm Going Down Too is a really interesting one because of how original it is. I mean, there's a million songs out there about friendship and having a friend's back, but how many are written in a hypothetical scenario where both friends are hardened criminals, murderers, in fact? So instead of just simply saying, I got your back, Kelsey is saying our bodies are in the same ditch, so even if I wanted to, I couldn't snitch. I'd put my hand on the Bible and lie through my teeth for you, even if you kill your husband. I mean, hey, that's a level of loyalty I can only dream of experiencing from my friends. I mean, hopefully I don't put myself in a position where I need my buddies to go to that length, but, you know, so far I've done a pretty good job of covering my tracks. And once again, so country, so much fiddle, so much mandolin, so much movement and energy from the guitars, so much lyrical substance. It's so good. Love is a Cowboy is one that has grown on me substantially since its release about a month ago. It's definitely on the more low-key side of things, especially coming after those opening tracks, but I think in the context of the record, coming after those more ambitious songs, it makes me appreciate the slower nature more, and I think it puts an exaggerated emphasis on the lyrics, which are pretty cute, personifying the emotion of love as a cowboy and how they overlap more than you'd expect. The song Muscle Memory starts this shift into the poppier stretch of the album, because although there is an abundance of uber country songs, it is Kelsea Ballerini. She's still gonna tap into her poppier side every now and then, but on this record, they're done so in a much more pleasing style. It doesn't break up the sound of the record. Rather than being this recoil way back into like a Chainsmokers sound, it's just more genre neutral with some light pop influence that I think winds up sounding poppier when following the more country moments. Regardless, Muscle Memory is definitely one of the more playful, youthfully romantic cuts, and man, is that hook ever catchy. I guess they call it Fallen is understandably one of the more polarizing cuts because it is by far the poppiest song on the album with the more urban delivery style. I'm not sure why, but it almost feels like a Taylor Swift song. Something about the way she squeezes the lyrics into fit and the more bitter attitude, it feels very Taylor in that way. But despite that, I like this song because it feels like a very raw recollection of a failed relationship, which would obviously point to her divorce, but it's just an interesting flip on the phrase falling in love, saying how she guesses it's called falling in love because you wind up on your face. And I just find that a really potent lyric, even though she's definitely not the first person to spin the phrase like that. Then there's the whole backside of the album, which, although being slightly more low-key, do not sleep on the writing of these deep cuts. Universe is definitely a pretty moment, but I wouldn't call it a standout per se. Walk in the Park is a cute little song with Kelsey presenting herself as a complicated lover, not always knowing what she wants, but I must say, with this song also drawing comparisons between Emotion and Weather, I think it sort of dismisses the song Weather as expendable. I just think with the presence of Walk in the Park, Weather just isn't needed. I think Walk in the Park is better, and in the grand scheme of things, I think Weather is just one of the more forgettable, unnecessary pop moments. But one song that is anything but forgettable is the collaboration with Kelly Clarkson and Carly Pearce. You're Drunk, Go Home. You're drunk, go home. First of all, what a trio of women. I think timing-wise, the blend of Kelsey and Carly makes a lot of sense, almost like Carly is helping her through this rodeo. The song is an electric guitar-driven two-stepper based in a honky-tonk, with the girls telling this guy to stop flirting and go home because he's not wooing them in the slightest. They're just standing there brutally unimpressed. I think all three ladies here really bring it vocally. Kelly Clarkson shows shades of that 1 in a million power, but she wisely keeps it rather tame to not outperform the others or become the star of the show, because this is a really balanced song, and I think that's what I like about it. It doesn't feel like Kelsea Ballerini featuring featuring Kelly Clarkson and Carly Pearce, or Kelly Clarkson featuring or Kelly Clarkson featuring Kelsea Ballerini and Carly Pearce. It feels like this is a trio that's existed for a while, like a Chapel Hart or like a Midland. That's the kind of chemistry that this song gives off. And musically, man, it feels like the swagger and style of 2000s Brad Paisley mixed with the production value and energy of a group like Midland, especially with the trio vibe. It's just another one of those moments that is so country. It was a pleasant shock to hear on this album. What I have is a good closer, even though I would have another choice to wind the album down. It does its job very well. I've spoke about it on the channel before, but it's the two songs before, Doing My Best and Marilyn, that really steal my attention. Both songs are just such specific and honest moments of Kelsea updating everyone with where she's at personally in the midst of her fame, as well as just a general rundown on all the drama. In that way, it really calls back to the more blunt moments on her Kelsea album in 2020. I mean, Doing My Best is literally a reflection on the year 2020, with Kelsea discussing how that album and those seasons of her life have aged with time. She quite plainly talks about regretting having Halsey featured on her album. I mean, she does just about everything but say the name Halsey. It's no secret who she's talking about, though. I mean, there's only one pop star featured on track 4. And she talks about getting married at that young age, and of course we know how that wound up going. And then the second to last track, Marilyn, is this gorgeous, deep moment where Kelsea talks about the deceptiveness of fame. You know, maintaining this utopian lifestyle isn't very sustainable. Being the model blonde with all the makeup, performing the hit songs to millions, how that fake perfection she presents is exhausting. I mean, she calls herself a show pony at multiple points throughout the song. But it's the catch of the song that really, really hits me. It's Kelsea asking herself if she misses Norma Jean, or did you always want to be Marilyn? How about that for an internal conflict? Asking yourself if you miss your true self over the perceived perfect self that you've created and spent so long chasing after and building and trying to be. It's just such a beautiful, deep cut that I personally wish was the closer, but oh well, it's still an incredible song. There's just so much to love with this new Kelsea album. Like I said, I had a feeling there would come a day where Kelsea Ballerini would give me this much to talk about. I just wasn't expecting it so soon. Subject to Change is a really remarkable evolution for Kelsea's sound as well as her general brand. The quality is most definitely there. The appeal has to be there. I mean, these songs just feel ready to connect with fans all over the world. And again, so country. I don't know what's next for Kelsea. Based on her words in this album, I don't think she does either, but whatever lies ahead, count me in. If her album in 2020 showed potential, this album I think shows the amount of potential, and it is a lot. She evidently has a very, very high ceiling that I do not think she has reached yet. Rating-wise, it's almost tough because I'm so high on this album right now, but I've listened to it like 5 times now, and it just gets better and better and better every time I return to it. But all things considered, I'm gonna give this album an 8.5 out of 10, and I'm excited to see where it lands in the context of 2022 as we begin winding the year down. It's definitely starting to enter my mind. I'm starting to think back and grab some names for consideration, but that is all I've got for you guys today. Be sure to let me know what you thought of this album in the comments below. I'd really love to talk about it down there with you guys. If you enjoyed this video, a like really does help my channel out. If you're new, maybe consider subscribing for more country music content. In the description below, you can find links to my Instagram, Discord, podcast, and Patreon if you'd like to support me financially. All of those are down there. Be sure to check them out. And yeah, until next time, I hope you guys have a great day.